2022 is at a close, and so today I'd wrap up with a bit of a tier list on every Apple product Apple's introduced this year. So we have S tier, which is like best of the best, like pretty much game-changing products. Then we have A tier, which is really great products, nothing wrong about them, just not really that game-changing. B tier, which is products that are great but have some things that don't really make it A tier. C tier products are just like okay, not like bad, but not like great. So C tier for that. D tier products are bad, and F tier products are just straight up trash. And so let's get started with the iPhone SE 3. Now this thing was pretty controversial when it came out, but I don't think it's that bad. It's just there's just many better options out there. It's in a very outdated design, so I'm just gonna say C tier for this guy, iPhone SE3. So C tier for that. Next up, we have the iPad Air 5. Now this thing is, I'm gonna say B tier because there is again nothing really wrong with the iPad Air 5. It's just again just some better options out there. So B tier for the iPad Air 5. Next up is the M1 Ultra chip. Now this came out obviously with the Mac Studio, which we'll get into in a little bit. But the M1 Ultra is, I think, really kind of innovative because it's like two M1 Maxes combined into just one really powerful chip. And so I'm going to say that is A tier. A tier for the M1 Ultra chip. Next up, we have the Mac Studio. Now, the Mac Studio is, I gotta say, really creative because, well, we've been asking for this Mac for years, like a mid-range, like purely desktop-based Mac, and so I gotta say this is also A tier. Nothing really game-changing, just A tier. Next up, we have the Studio Display. Now, this could have been like game-changing because, well, this is basically Apple's re-entrance into the monitor market, except for the Pro Display XDR, obviously. But the Studio Display was kind of priced wrong. It was $1,600. It still is $1,600. But I gotta say, if you can find this thing for like a really good deal, like Apple has some in a refurbished store for like $1,300, it's a really great deal. So I'm gonna say this is B tier. Yeah, B tier for the Studio Display. Next up, we have the M2 chip. Now, the M2 chip obviously came out with the MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, which we'll get into a little bit. M2 is fine. Like, it's not really like that big of like a game-changing chip, but we expected that. We did not expect it to be like anything super revolutionary. So I'm gonna say it's B tier. B tier for M2. Next, the M2 MacBook Pro, the first device to get the M2 chip, and it's definitely the most underwhelming device. And so I'm gonna say, because it has no purpose in Apple's Mac lineup, F tier. F tier for the M2 MacBook Pro. Next, the M2 MacBook Air, on the other hand, I'm gonna say this is A tier. A tier for the M2 MacBook Air. It's really great device, and it's just a million times better than the M2 MacBook Pro, and it's cheaper than the M2 MacBook Pro. Obviously, there's some issues like the cooling and the SSD issues, but other than that, it's a pretty fine device. Next, iOS 16. Now this, like last year with iOS 15, I hated it because it was unstable and it had no new features to make up for the unstableness. And so iOS 15 I got D tier last year, but iOS 16 added new features and it's more stable in my experience. So I'm gonna say it's A tier. A tier for iOS 16. Same with WatchOS 9. I mean, like, I have like just started using the Apple Watch this year because I just got it like last week. But from my experience, it's really great. So WatchOS 9, A tier. Now macOS Ventura, on the other hand, I would have said A tier, but the new system settings is just not that good. I mean, like, I kind of get used to it, but still, I prefer the Monterey system preferences. So I'm gonna say B tier for macOS Ventura. iPadOS 16, on the other hand, I don't like iPadOS 16 because, well, there are basically no new features for devices that are pre A12X or devices that don't have A12X, A12Z, or M1 or M2. And for devices that do have it, they just have Stage Manager, which is just not great. So I'm gonna say I'll probably give it F, but since they added some new things, I'll give it D tier, D tier for iPad 16. Next up, another F rating immediately. Apple Watch Series 8. It's not bad, but there's again no new features to make up for just for upgrading. So F tier for Apple Watch Series 8. Apple Watch SE, it's the Apple Watch I'm currently using right now. I'm gonna say this is B tier because, well, they lower the price on this, which is something you don't see. In fact, I think it's the only device that's that a price reduction this year. So I'll give it B tier for the Apple Watch SE. Apple Watch Ultra, on the other hand, I'm actually gonna give this S tier because this thing is like the first time ever the Apple Watch has really felt new. It's just like the first Apple Watch just felt new, and so I'm gonna give it S tier. So yeah, and it's a very creative watch as well, Apple Watch Ultra. So S tier for the Ultra. AirPods Pro 2 are really great. They added a lot of new features on these guys, while keeping the same design. But since they're not really game changing, I've heard a lot of good things about them. But since they're not really like game changing, some people might call them game changing, but like they're still like AirPods. I'm gonna give them A tier. A tier. There's nothing wrong with them, just not really like game changing. iPhone 14 and 14 Plus. I'm combining them both here. I'm gonna give these almost D tier or F tier, but I'm gonna give them D tier because there's nothing that really makes you want to get these because, like, well, the 14 just get 13 at that point, and 14 Plus just get like a 14 Pro Max because it's really close. It's really close in price, or just a 14 Pro, or if you want to go cheaper, just go for a 13 Pro Max used. It's just no reason to get 14 Plus. So yeah, D tier for the 14, 14 Plus. For the 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max, they're not really game changing, but I'm gonna give them A tier. A tier for 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max. They are just like pretty solid iPhone upgrade this year for the Pro models only. The regular models, not so much, but the Pros, definitely. Next, the iPad 10th generation. This is probably, I'm going to say, the most controversial iPad this year, or most controversial device, honestly, this year. I would say the controversy was kind of like a bit too much, honestly, in my opinion. I might be a bit controversial myself there. I think this got a bit too much hate. I mean, like, some of the hate was deserved. Obviously, the first gen Apple Pencil, I think we can all universally agree that's not the right move. But everything else about it, it's just fine. Not bad, just fine. And so, I'm gonna give it like somewhere in the middle of A and or B and a C. I give it like I give it C tier. C tier because of the Apple Pencil stuff. Like if it's change the Apple Pencil stuff, then and it got a bit cheaper, like $400 instead. You can find these on Amazon, I think, for $400. I'd say it would have been better. So yeah, C tier for 10th gen iPad. The iPad Pro M2 automatic F tier because there is nothing going for the M2 iPad Pro. Like all they changed was just M2 chip, which isn't that much faster than M1, and Apple Pencil Hover, which is a cool feature but not really worth upgrading. So yeah, F tier for M2 iPad Pro. The 4K Apple TV. This may be controversial. I'm gonna give it high A tier for this one because almost creeping up to S tier, honestly. And here's the reason why. Because this is the first year, in my opinion, that Apple's really taking the Apple TV 4K seriously. Because while, like, previous years, the Apple TV has been, like, very much overpriced, but this year, it's honestly really great value. Considering that this is not even the end of it, because Guoming Chi said that the next Apple TV is going to be sub $100. Like, that is going to be really exciting. So, future of Apple TV, based on this new Apple TV, is going to be crazy good. So, there you go. That is my tier list. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? I'd say I'd say like pretty much agree. Obviously with myself, don't really want to change anything here. I think everything here I agree with. So there you go. That is my tier list. Yeah, let me know what you change, and that's about it. So thanks for watching. See you guys later.